Hello guys, warm welcome to one and all, and this is part 11 of web technologies, and the part of web technologies we are been learning about HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so in the last session we are started about how do you apply the CSS to the HTML elements of different web pages. And in the part of HTML, CSS, first we just find out today what we are trying to learn, and the next thing is we will find out how do you apply them. But in last session we are already learned a few things, right? Hope you remembered everyone. So in the last session we are learned about how do you apply the CSS to different elements of simple or single HTML document, right? So in which we have three varieties here. One variety is inline CSS, right? Second one is internal CSS, and third one is external CSS. Out of which we have already learned two things here. One is inline CSS we have done, internal CSS also we have done. Let me explain you very clearly about how it is done, right? If it is inline CSS, you can apply the CSS to a single element of HTML with the attribute. You can use style attribute for the only that element. You cannot go for beyond, or you cannot apply the other elements. Okay, for example, if you want to apply for all the elements, what I supposed to do is, it's pretty simple job. You need to take all the elements separately and you need to apply them one by one. Okay, that is something called inline CSS. It is not recommended to use everyone, but apart from that we can also have some other thing, that is something called internal CSS. In internal CSS also we have segregated into three different parts. The first part is element level CSS, second one is ID level CSS, and third one is class level CSS. So what will happen with element level CSS? You need to write a particular element, what kind of CSS you want to apply, and you need to take that particular element and you need to apply them. Okay, so nothing but that is something which we have to be which we are trying to learn about it, correct? So that in element level what will happen is, whatever the elements in that document which is of same type. Let's say probably you have H1 which is of 6 elements or 4 elements, you have 5 elements. What will happen is, all these 5 or 6 elements of that document will apply the same style, correct? So this is one way you can apply. For example, you want to apply the same CSS to the multiple elements of HTML, nothing but maybe H1, maybe H2, maybe paragraph. I have shown you an example also. Hope you remember that. If you want to apply the same CSS for these 3 elements, what will happen is, I need to write a comma separated value between a multiple values or multiple elements, so that whatever the CSS you have written, whatever the properties you have written, that properties will apply to all these 3 elements at a time. Okay. And second thing is, or second part is ID level CSS. ID level CSS always identified with hashtag. You can give any ID name, that is user defined name, you can give any name whatever you want. Whereas class level CSS is also one part where it will always starts from dot followed by the name of the class. You can apply whatever the properties you want for this. Okay, so let me show you once again what are the 3 varieties here. The first variety is inline CSS, second one is internal CSS. Some people will call it as, this is element level CSS, it's also fine, whereas this is document level CSS, right? Again, this can be segregated into 3 parts, that is, right, that is element, nothing but you can apply the only for that element, and then ID, and the third one is class, right? I'll just show you the syntax how it is need to apply. For example, if it is element level, nothing but if it is element level, how to apply it? Followed by element name, comma, or element name. Okay, so this you can write some property, right? So then you need to apply the value to it, all right. And second one is, for example, multiple elements which have a same type, nothing but element name, comma, another element name, right? Then you need to write a comma separated elements, then you need to apply the CSS to it. right? You can, what will happen at this particular place is whatever the elements you have written. For example, for this I am writing a simple example, H1 required some color, right? So I'll write a color attribute and write the I value as color, nothing but all H1 in that same document will apply the color as red. For example, let's see, I have a H1, I have a H2, I have a paragraph, I have a H4, right? All these 4 documents need to apply the again same color, right? So how do I do it? It's pretty simple job. I need to write an attribute name followed by value. Let's say property name is color, I need to write the color name is something say green. So what will happen is all these 4 elements of that document will have a same color, nothing but same CSS, alright. And for example, if I want to go for single element, then you have to go this particular manner. For example, if you want to go for as ID level CSS, alright. So what I need to do is I need to write ID name, right? You can, ID name always starts with hashtag, alright. So then you need to write some property name, then you need to write some value to this, right? So then I need to write another ID name. So whatever the ID names you want to write, so let's see, this is ID name 1, this is your ID name 2, right? You can apply with this particular thing, say property name, then followed by value to it. Alright. So how do I apply it? It's pretty simple. If let's take an example as H1, right? I'm writing H1 tag here, and if you want to apply the ID to it, ID is equals to respective ID. For example, let's say ID name I'm writing here as let's say hashtag C1, right, is the name of my ID, and I'll write some property here, something say color is red. So what will happen is this red is going to apply here. Sorry, it's not red, it's say C1, right. So for example, I have another ID called C2. Always ID need to start with hashtag, color is again say green, right. So then if I have one more H1, if I want to apply the ID to it, let's say C2. Alright, so this is how you need to apply the CSS to this particular element. This is something called a ID level CSS. Let's see class level CSS. How to apply the class level CSS? Class name always starts with dot, and you can write the class name, and with this class name you need to write the property name, and then you need to write the some value to it. Okay. So if you want to write one more class, let's see, again you need to write the class name 1, then you need to write the property name, then you need to follow the value to this. Okay, this is how you can apply it. It's pretty simple example I'm giving you here. C1 is my class name, then you can write the class color as something say red dot C2, and I need to write the color attribute value as green. So for example, if I want to apply to any tags or any elements of HTML, this is one of my element of HTML, this is another element of my HTML, maybe it is of same type or maybe it is of different type, that doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, so here class is equals to C1, C2. Alright. So this is how you need to apply the CSS to different elements of HTML, right. Most of the people will get confused here. What is the difference between here ID and the classes, right? So the best recommended way to use the class is, recommended way is you can use the class, but don't use ID here, because class is one of the important thing which you can apply to the CSS. ID, you will get confused here. What is this ID is? Because ID is one of the format or one of the important thing which basically what it will do is it is going to give an ID for a particular element in HTML, that when you come to the next session you will understand why not I have to use, why not ID, why only class, because ID is a property which can give to any element of HTML which you want to identify that element unique in that particular doc. I'm repeating once again, out of which we have a ID and we have a class, both, right? In which one is better? Someone is asking which one is better. It is pretty simple. I can say class. Why? Right? So when I say class is a recommended way to use a CSS properties, which is given by W3C. Nothing but World Wide Web is have some kind of community, W3C community. With that, what they have a rule is, whenever you try to write a CSS to a particular document, try to use a class. Why not ID here? The ID is a different part or different places where it can be identified differently. So what is that actually, right? When I say ID is one of the property you can give it to element of HTML which can identify the document uniquely, right? For example, let's take some X document, X HTML document. In that I have a 4 H1 tags, and these 4 tags I want uniquely identify them. In that time, what I'll do is I'll give ID1, ID2, ID3 and ID4, right? So what will happen? There is no scope of using this ID of CSS, correct? So that you can see, you can understand very easily when it comes to the next lesson, where you will find proper identification for that. But best recommended way to apply the CSS to any HTML document, that you can say class, not ID. Alright, so this is all about inline as well as internal, that we have already discussed in earlier session. But today's session is how do you apply or how do you maintain consistency of different web pages which have a same styles or same consistent look and feel. Am I very clear what I am trying to tell? For example, let's imagine that you have a 10 HTML documents, out of which all these 10 HTML documents require some styles to it. So I can do one thing, I can go for each and individual particular document and I'll apply the styles to it. What will happen is after applying the CSS to it, 10 documents you can manage them. For example, your website is all about 100 documents. How could you manage them? Right? So that there is some centralized resource which has to apply all the things at one place, which has to have everything at one place, and you have to link that HTML with that particular document. Right, I'll just show you with a graphical format. Let's look at here the screen. Right, for example, I have this my website. Right, you look at here. This is my website. A website is basically consists of number of websites or web pages. Right, page 1, page 2, page 3, like this. Let's say a couple of pages I'm taking here. This is page 1. This is your page 2, and this is your page 3. Right, like this I have a couple of pages here. This is page number 4, this is page number 6. Like this I have a couple of pages in my document, right? Couple of pages I have. Let's take 9 pages here. As per according to this, 9 pages I have. All these 9 pages required some styles to it. All this, nothing but what I have here. Here also I have a H1, right? Here also I have a H1, and here also I have a H1 tag. Nothing but in all of these 3 documents which have a H1, right? In this document I have a H1 plus H2 both. Here also I have a H1 plus H2 both. Here also I have a H1 plus H2 both, right? And here comes with this, I have a H1, I have a H2, I have a paragraph. I have a H1, I have a H2, and I have a paragraph. I have a H1, H2 and paragraph. Okay, right. What I just want to do is, wherever the H1s are present, wherever the H1 elements are presented. Okay, so in this all cases H1 is presented, right? In this all cases, all the HTML document will have an element called HTML, and this supposed to have one style, right? Style in the sense which have some properties that has to apply with this particular style. And along with that, I have some H2 tags here, right? I have some H2 tags here. I have a H2 tags here. This H2 tags need to apply with some other style here. Let's see. Let's say I'll take some style number 2. Alright. So I have some paragraph tags here, right? So this paragraph, as well as this paragraph, 3 paragraph tags I have. All these paragraph tags require some other style. Style number 3. So what in generally I'll do right now, whatever the styles, whatever I know right now, what I can do right now, because what I'll do is I'll go to each and individual page of HTML. I'll go to each and individual of HTML, right? Then what I'll do is I'll copy that CSS and I'll paste it in each and individual documents which is presented here, right? Right? Is it clear now? But I want to have some centralized page. I need some centralized page which has to have a same thing. So for that, what I'll do is I'll take some external library or external file, right? I'll take some external library or external file which have a centralized CSS, which have what? One centralized CSS. I'll write this CSS and apply to this entire HTML docs, right? I'll apply to entire HTML docs, so that what will happen is I can maintain same consistency or same look and feel throughout all these 9 pages, right? So that your life becomes pretty simple. As a web developer, as a designer of web application, your life becomes pretty much simple. And this is what one of the recommended way to use the applications building, right? So that is what we have a third sector, right? So we have discussed only 2, right? We have not discussed about the third one. What is the third one here? The third point is external CSS. What you need to do is, okay, what is the external CSS does basically? Alright, external CSS in the sense you need to create some external file, right? We need to create some external file which has to store in same folder, which has to store in same folder, nothing but same what I can say, same web application folder, right? So whatever the website you are creating, within the same website you need to save that particular file and apply them to all the files where it's required, where the styles wherever the styles are required, and all places you can apply the particular CSS to it. This is something called external CSS. First thing is, out of which what you need to do, first of all, you need to create some external file. Alright, so first I'll go to some Notepad++. I'm going to create a new style, right? New file here. This is new file which does not have any extension, right? So I'm going to create some classes here. Class name is C1, class name is C2, class name is C3, right? And the class name is C4. Alright, so this is the 4 different classes I have here. 4 different classes I have, right? In each and every class I'm going to write some color. I mean to say some simple CSS property, and I'm giving a property, call it as the value is green. Okay, so 4 classes or 4 different classes I have created just now. Alright, so after which I'm going to save this document now. Alright, so what is the name of my document is? My document name is some X document name. Let's say A11 dot. You need to be clear with the extension here. The extension of this particular file is cascading style sheet, nothing but dot css. See that the name of your extension is dot css. If you are not able to see the text, I'm going to show you on your file. Alright, so how your files look like? The file look like this. A11 is the name of file, dot css is your extension. Alright, so I'm going to save this doc. Now what I have created now, I have created some external library file. External file is already created, but what you need to do is you want to apply this library to the different HTML. Now what I'll do is I'll remove this entire part. I'll remove this style tag which is we have created earlier. I'm going to remove everything here. I'm going to remove all these classes here. Alright, so now you can just see that it's a plain page, right? You will not have anything. You will not have anything to this, correct? So I'll go to the one more document here, right? So this is one document. I'll go to one more document. Here also I'm going to remove the what I can say the entire style. Alright, which we have created earlier classes. I mean earlier files. I'm just from that I'm removing the CSS here. Right, I'm going to save this doc. Again, I'm going to show you on your browser. Right, it is also pretty simple, right? So I'm going to close all the recent remove files. I'll just show you only these two now. First file name, and this is your second file. Alright, let me go to one more file where we have applied the element level also. I'm going to remove this element level also. Alright, so I'm going to show you this file also. Go to run and save file in browser. Alright, so right now you will not have any colors to this particular all HTML document, correct? So how do I apply the CSS? Because you just look at here, I have created some external library, nothing but this is the file name is a11.css, right? This is the file which we have created externally, but what we need to do is we need to link this particular file with this particular HTML documents. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. Right, I'll just require only 3 files right now. This is all all I want is I want to require all these things supposed to have same CSS. All these things has to have a same color, same CSS and everything. How do I link this? Right, so you can just see that first we have created a file and we have already stored in the same library or same website, right? And the next thing is you need to apply them to all files where the styles is required. I require the styles in these 3 pages, right? So how do I link this? You can have a tag name called link tag. You have a link tag. With this link tag, you can directly link the file, which is right now what is the file here? a11.css, right? This file you can directly link here, right? So the first attribute remember is the first attribute name called href. href. Which file you are referring? I am referring the file name called a11.css. And also I need to tell them that what is this is all about, right? I can say source, say type, or now you need to write href, which is the name of the file which you are referring, and the next thing is you need to write a style sheet. Okay, so what I can say, relevant file name, right? Relevant file name is style sheet, right? So now save this doc and go to the browser and refresh it. So now, okay, I'm going to remove this file attribute. First I'll show you the simple file HTML. Nope. Relevant file name not showing, right? Nope. Okay, so let me apply to one more document. I'm going to apply with a link tag. That is H reference file name is a11.css and relevant file name is style sheet. Alright, so somewhere it is maybe the file we have not created properly. Okay, so let me go to this particular h1 element, right? So I need to write the class, right? So the class name I'm applying as C1. Alright, see that I'm trying to get that particular color to this part. Alright, so here h1, right? So all this h1, let's say class, all this h1 I'm trying to apply the same style, right? So wherever h1 is there, I want to apply the same class, right? Alright, so now save this doc and refresh it on our browser, right? So in all this in this document we have all h1 which is of same color, right? Now I'll do one thing, I'll move into one more document, it is also h1, right? I'll try to make this h1 as h2 now. Okay, a few h1 is there, I'm trying to make sure that a few h2 tags I'm applying to this. Okay, let me copy this. Alright, so then I'll do one thing, this is say heading 2.1, this is say heading 2.2, this is you can say heading 2.3, this is I can say heading number 2.4, right? So alright, so now I'm going to save this document. Right. So the class name of h1 is C1. Class name of this will be C2. Right. Class name of this I'll make it as again C1 only because all h1 has to be in same color and all. Alright, so all h1 and h2 will have some different color, right? So I need to write a reference and followed by I need to write the relevant file name also. Relevant file name is style sheet. Okay, go to run, launch it on the browser. See that h1 will have one color, h2 have another color, right? And go to one more document which we have created earlier and all h1 supposed to, if you want to link, you need to have a link tag. That link tag is going to link your document with your another document. First attribute name is h reference attribute a11.css. Relevant file name is style sheet. Okay, so this tag I'm trying to apply here, that is something say class, right? C1 is the for h1, right? So I'll take it for all h1 will have a same class. Right, all paragraphs I'll take a class name as C3. right, and all H2 which have a style name called a C2. Alright, so now save this document and refresh the browser. Alright, so you just look at here, in this particular document, all H1 will have a same color, right? All H1 will have a same color, paragraph have one color and H2 have another color. Here also H1 will have one color, H2 have another color. Here all H1 which have a same CSS, right? This is how you can apply an external CSS. It is pretty much important. It is the recommended way to use a CSS file. Okay, am I very clear, guys? I am repeating once again, how do you use this particular thing in GraphicalS? Okay, first thing what you need to do is, you have to create some external file, right, with the name of file with something called as some X name. Say in our case it is a11.css is a name of file which we have created. And remember one thing, whatever the external CSS you are creating, try to maintain in the same folder. So for example, this is your entire project folder. Within the folder you are placing this particular file, and after that what you need to do is, this is all your HTML document. Remember that this is all your HTML document, right? Some X HTML documents are here, right? So what you need to do is, whatever the properties you want to write here and apply it to all this particular part. So first thing is, whenever you are creating any CSS, make sure that your extension of this extension of your style sheet always supposed to be .css. Please do remember this. And how do you apply this? Pretty much important question in your interviews. There is a tag name called link in your HTML. There is a tag name called link in your HTML. This link tag again you need to place within the head part of your browser. Where you need to place in the head part of your browser. What is the attributes are required for this? The first attribute is required href, nothing but which file you are referring. And the second thing is, you need to place relevant file name. Or relevant file name, if it is something say CSS, always you need to write something called style sheet for this. Alright, and okay, and first thing is, you need to place relevant file name. If you are trying to place with style sheets, nothing but .css files, you need to write style sheet for this. And if you are trying to referring that particular file, if I referring the file name is a11.css, automatically you can refer them. Alright, so you may get a doubt that, for example, I have a couple of CSS files, like I have a1.css, like I have some other files also. Can I refer all these files at a time? Let's say I have one more file name called a12.css and I have file name called a13.css. Alright, I have three files which is of a different name. Can I refer all these three things to a single document? Yes, you can do it. You can put all these three HTML document to the single HTML file also with the same, but you need to just change the hyperlink reference, H reference file you need to change here. Instead of a11.cs, you need to write one more link tag and then you need to write. Practically, you can look at here. This is one file, right? I want to refer one more file. Let's say link. Right, I need to refer the one more file name. Let's say it is something called a12.css and relevant file name is something say style sheet for this. This is how you can apply the basics two thing. Or for example, if you want one more thing, let's say probably you need to write one more link tag, right? So I need to write a13.css relevant file name, again style sheet. Right. So this is how you need to apply the CSS to your HTML document is. Alright, now very clear guys, this is how you need to go for external CSS. This is the best recommended way to use or best way to apply the CSS to your HTML document. If I do, what will happen is you can maintain same look and feel throughout your website, throughout your entire website. You will have a same consistency, same look and feel. Wherever your H1 is present, it will have a same color. Wherever H2 is presented, it will have a same color. Am I very clear guys? This is how you need to understand, out of which these are the three places. It's pretty much important. Here you can always use either class or ID, but you can always, I can say, ID format. Okay, I'll do one thing. Here I have created the external CSS with a dot file, right? I mean to say class file. I'll do one thing. I'm going to create one more document for you. Here I'm going to apply with a ID format. Hashtag is used for ID, right? I'm going to use C1. I'm going to use C2. Right? I'm going to use C3. And I'm going to use C4. Alright, so 4 different things, but here you need to observe in the previous example I have shown you with a dot, right? If I say dot, in the sense you need to remember compulsory that it is a class name, but in this example I want to refer with a hash, nothing but you need to remember one thing, it is a ID format. Alright, so I'll do one thing, I'm going to write some color to it. Let's say color is say green, right? So I'm going to write one more color to this. I'm going to write some color to it. Okay, so I'm going to write different colors to it with the different formats. Alright, so I'm going to save this HTML document. Let's give the name, say A12, because we have already created A11 file. Now I'm going to create A2 file, and your file extension is always cascading style sheet, nothing but .css. Okay, now you just look at here, this is name of the file, A12.css, and file name is cascading style sheet. Let's save this doc. Alright, so now your file is got saved, and this I'm going to remove the link of first one, I'm going to remove the link of second one, right? Now let's see how it is going to happen now. Let's see, probably run the browser, right? So now look at here, you're not applying any color to it, because what you have used here, you have used ID, right? But in place of that, previously we have written class, right? I just need to replace all these classes with IDs. I'm going to refresh my browser again. See that you're applying the same, right? There is no changes at all, because in the previous example I have used class, and the before current example I'm using ID. There is no much difference between a class and ID, but when it comes to implementation part, ID is one of the specific thing which can give it to some other purpose, right? As I already explained you earlier. So the best recommended way to use dot, the best recommended way to use external CSS. Alright, hope you understand these three. Alright, so this is how the first step into the CSS. When you understand this, the next couple of sessions becomes pretty much simple, because always I used to use either dot, either class, whatever the thing, right? I'll use some set of properties. For example, let me say background have some set of properties. Always I'll use a dot format, because I'll apply some backgrounds to the HTML elements, or maybe the body of HTML. All these things I'll use the same. Alright, so hope you are very clear about these three. What is that? Inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS, correct? Inline or internal will have three different things. One is element, ID, and class. You can also use them in external CSS also, but best recommended way to use the format is class format. The best recommended way to use the external style sheet format. Alright, so hope that is one of the basic steps when you are looking into it. Alright, so let's look at here. Alright, so I hope we have run out for the day, right? So when it comes to the next session, we will be learn about some set of properties to it. Set of properties in the sense background will have some set of properties, right? And when you look at a font, will have a set of properties. When I say text, will have a set of properties. This all set of properties we will be learning about all this thing in the next coming lessons, right? So by the time you are being in a position to understand this basic level of CSS, each and every one, it is pretty much important. If you have any doubts related to this CSS, you can post a comment on the YouTube channel. Alright, so that I will be reply back with that current example, or if you are facing any problem, let me know so that I will be able to solve it. Alright, thank you so much. Be a part of this session. I'm the trainer of APSSDC. By the way, I'm Anil Kumar.